Hello, everyone. So we are going to continue together the summary of the Discover Canada book, just for preparation for the Canadian citizenship. Today, we are going to speak about the third part, which will be who we are. And before that, we just would like to state some of the facts, which is Canada is the only constitutional monarchy in North America. So actually, in North America, we have three countries, that is USA, Canada, and Mexico. And Mexico, and only Canada is a constitutional monarchy, which means there is a king or a queen, which is the head of the state, and then under that it will become the federal government. So we are under the British crown, represented by the current king or the current queen. Now, for sure, we have the King Charles III. And so that's why we call it as a constitutional monarchy. So there's a king, but he's actually like governing based on a constitution. Okay, and the Canada original constitution has been constructed in 1867, and it has another name, which is British North America Act. British North America Act, and the key phrase of this constitution was peace, order, and good government. Peace, order, and good government. This can be one of the multiple choice questions, like the key phrase of the Canadian Constitution, and then we give you some options. And here you have to remember just the peace, order, and good government. And also Canada has a different name, which is Great Dominion. Great Dominion, which is used by poets and songwriters. So this is a different name for Canada, which is called Great Dominion. And the founding people of Canada, we have three different founding people. The Aboriginal people, so the original like people from North America, and then the European came from Europe, which are the French and the British. And today we are going to speak about three of them, and we are going to start with the Aboriginal people. Okay, and actually, Aboriginal people has a problem with the European came from Europe, because actually they created something called residential schools, and they forced the Aboriginal children to go to the residential schools, and they were physically abused. And in 2008, Canada, represented in Ottawa, formally apologized to the former students, to the Aboriginal people about that. And the Aboriginal people has three different categories. So Indian, which are the majority, 65%, and the Indians are just that they are not the other two, which Inuit and Métis. So the Indians are just not Inuit or Métis. And in 1970s, there's another term for Indian, which is the First Nation. So Indian are the same as the First Nation, and 50% of the Indians are just living in their own reserve land. They have reserve land. They are governed by different in a different technique, so they have different rules, which we're going to speak about when we speak about the governments. But they have their own reserved land. Okay. Second type or second category will be the Inuit, and the Inuit are just 40%, 4%. These are very few number of people just living in. And actually, Inuit means the people, which is their own language, Inuktitut language. Okay, and they are just live in small groups, scattered in scattered communities and across the Arctic. So it's a very like low temperature places. They are scattered groups where they are living just for trade or hunting animals and so on. Because they are quite few. They are just 4% of the Aboriginal people. And the third category will be the Métis, and the Métis actually is just the mixed or the descendant of Aboriginal people and European people. So an Aboriginal person got married to a European person or a European person, and then they give some children. They call them Métis. They are the ancestry of the European and the Aboriginal. And majority of the Métis are living in the Prairie provinces. And we're going to speak about that later when we speak about the geographical description of Canada. And they have their own dialect, their own language, which is called Meshif. They have special language called Meshif, and sometimes actually it is like the primary language in their schools. Okay. Okay, coming to the second two groups of people, which are the English and the French, coming from Europe, the French people and the British people. So federal government actually, like Canada is officially bilingual country. So they have two official language, which is the English and the French. And federal government by law, they have to serve their service in two languages, like in post. English and the French. And that's why actually, if you can speak English and the French, you will have a bigger opportunity to get a job in the government and with a very good salary. Okay, and the people who speak English is called Anglophones. They are around 18 million in Canada, and they're also known as English Canadians. And the people who speak French is called Francophones, and they are mostly in Quebec. So they're mostly in living in Quebec. Okay, and there's only one province which is called New Brunswick. New Brunswick is the only officially bilingual province. So they are officially bilingual. So the schools teach both English and French. If you go to a restaurant, if you go to a shopping mall or anything, you have to you will find the service is provided in two languages, English and French. This is the only province which applies this bilingual service. Okay, and we speak about a special group is called Acadians. And actually, Acadians are descendants of French colonists. So they are actually descendants of the French who came to North America in the beginning. And there was a problem. Why we mention Acadians here? Because there is a problem with Acadians happened in 1755, between 1755 and 1763, where there is a war between Britain and France. And during this war, the British colonists or the British people just deported like more than two over three of Acadians outside of their homeland. They take their belongings and they didn't give them any compensation, and that was called agreed upheaval. That this movement was called agreed upheaval, and actually that was like that's why actually they have a special mention here, which is called Acadians. Okay, and all the people who live in Quebec, they have a special term. We call them Quebecers. So Quebecers, all the people are living in Quebec, and actually the majority of them are speaking the French language. Okay. Since 1970, most of the immigrants are coming from Asia, Asian countries like China or South Korea or North Korea and all this stuff. That's why actually you can find that the Chinese language is the second most spoken at home. So after English, the second most spoken at home is Chinese in Canada. Okay, and the majority of Canada for sure are speaking to the religion. Like Canada has all religions: Islam, Christians, and Jewish. But the majority of Canadians are Catholic, Christians, Catholic, Christians, Catholic. Okay, and also we need to mention the Canada diversity include gay and lesbian who enjoy full protection, equal treatment under the law, including access to civil marriage. Access to civil marriage. So I think this part was quite easy. We just would like to like summarize that we have three different categories of people. Like we have the Aboriginal people, and the French and the English people. So French, English coming from Europe, and the Aboriginal are the original people were living here in Canada. Okay, and the Aboriginal actually has three different categories: the Indian, Inuit, and Métis. Okay, I hope this will be easy, and next time we'll start with the history part. See you next time, and have a good day. Bye-bye.